What's up? What's up? How's everybody doing? Just pulling up my notes. Okay. So, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael Music, and I have been going live and sharing a little bit about Think and Grow Rich. And so, essentially, this is the second time I'm really going through this entire book and having a group discussion, a conversation about this book. And what I wanted to do today is I actually took notes. So I got this thing. It's called Living the Legacy, and it's by Bob Proctor himself. And he went through desire, right? And so I took some notes on that video, and I wanted to share with you the notes I took. And then I also may get into some good underlying quotes from the chapter on desire. The purpose of this live is not to necessarily read the book again. I already did that in episode 1. And essentially, I want to hit a new angle on it and see if we can really understand what desire truly is. So I got my notebook out, and I guess I will just start by reading it. And if any other thoughts come to mind, I would love to share it with you. And as always, this is a group discussion. So I really would appreciate all your feedback, see what you, ladies and gentlemen, have to say about this chapter, right? So, desire, we're going to talk about what is desire, right? Like, what's the definition of desire, and why is desire essentially the first step towards riches, right? We've been reading this book, Think and Grow Rich, and there's a reason that this book has created more millionaires than any other book out there, right? And essentially it starts with this whole idea that you need a burning desire, right? So let's talk about what is a burning desire, right? So desire is the effort of the unexpressed possibility within, seeking effort without through our action. Desire is the effort of the unexpressed possibility within, seeking without through our action. So what does that mean? What is the unexpressed possibility within, right? We're all told that no one can really dictate what you can do in this world, right? And essentially, there's infinite potential locked within us. And what essentially this desire is it's the spiritual part of us, like the higher, our higher form of us that is seeking expression without, through us, through our actions, right? So we all want to really learn how to tap into this. And I'm going to read some of my notes, and as we go along, I'm going to spark off of them. So you will never desire something you don't want. And we're going to also talk about later on making a decision, right? And so when you make a decision on something, the only prerequisite to making a decision is you just got to ask yourself, do I want it? And so I want to ask you, what are wants and what are desires? And what's the difference between the two, right? Because you can essentially do anything in this world as long as you want it, right? And I gotta say that with caution. You can't do anything you want as long as you want it. It's as long as it doesn't go against the rights of other people, that's all right. So, um, I wanna I wanna present this idea to you that I got from the video with Bob. He said, describe our wants in as much detail as possible and in the present tense. So that's how you want to start. And essentially, I'm not sure if I'll explain it. So essentially, there's the human mind, and we have never really have been able to see what the human mind looks like, right? And so essentially, in the conscious mind, you have your wants, right? Like, so you can think about what you want, and what we want to do with these things that we want is we want to get them to our subconscious mind into the form of a desire. So I'm going to keep reading my notes. I know I'm getting into a little bit of a hoorah stuff, but we are going to keep going. Okay. So essentially, the more we understand how our mind functions, the better we will understand desire. And what we want to do is we want to build the picture of what we want and crystallize it. So I want to ask you, what does the image of what you want look like? All right. And then what does it look like when the goal of what you want becomes your reality right now? And Bob says you literally got to start living it and tie it with persistence. So there is what you want, right? It's out there. This is what my notes are saying. What you want is out there, right? And what you want to do is you want to bring it into the present tense, right? Um, so I want to ask you, what would that feel like right now if you imagine what you truly want, you brought it to the present tense, and what would it look like if that goal that you have became your reality right now? There's a there's this one author, his name is Neville Goddard, right? And he talks about the state of the wish fulfilled. And he's saying that, okay, so what you want is actually out there already, right? It's not in the future. Let's just bring it here. And the key to getting what it is that you want is to wrap it up with persistence in maintaining the state of the wish fulfilled, right? So I want to ask you, what does that look like to you? What does that state of the wish fulfilled look like? What would it look like if you had everything you wanted right here, right now, right? So I want you to play that game with your mind, fantasize it, and live it. Okay. And let's keep going. Okay, so this is an interesting quote. So Bob says the money will be there when the money has to be there, right? So what does that mean? What does it mean when you want to do something but there's a price tag on it and that's holding you back? Essentially, what Bob is saying is he doesn't let a price stop him from doing what he wants, right? He when he's going to make a decision, what he does is he dictates what is it that I want? Do I want it? And then if he does want it, he decides, okay, cool, I'm going to do it. And he does not let anything stop him. And what he says is a lot of people let the price tag of what their dreams are stop them. And essentially, he says that the money will show up when it needs to show up. So I want to ask you, what if you could do what it you had to do to achieve your dreams, and you just knew with faith that the money will show up when it had to show up? Okay, so there's also a great quote that he said from Napoleon Hill, that he says that the accumulation of fortunes calls for power. Empowered is acquired through highly organized and intelligently directed specialized knowledge, but that knowledge does not necessarily have to be in the possession of the person who accumulates the fortune. I'm going to repeat that again. Napoleon Hill says that the accumulation of fortunes calls for power, and power is acquired through highly organized and intelligently directed specialized knowledge. But that knowledge does not necessarily have to be in the possession of the person who accumulates the fortune. So that's interesting. So we're talking about power here. Like, what does true power? What is it? What is that, right? Because yeah, we all want money, right? But why do we want money? And essentially, it's to have it what we want, like what we can buy with the money, right? And we're talking about building great fortunes throughout this book, Think and Grow Rich, right? So what is that? What am I saying? Am I talking crazy or am I onto something? So the accumulation of fortunes, accumulation of tons of money, right? The rich people want to accumulate fortunes, and it calls for power. And power is acquired through highly organized and intelligently directed specialized knowledge, right? But here's the kicker, that knowledge does not necessarily have to be in the possession of the person who accumulates the fortune. So that's pretty cool. You don't need to essentially know it all, but you just need to know that if you can bring the people around you, if you can attract the people around you that do know it all, then you can have true power with this. Okay, next is, do you want the same results of your friends, neighbors, and relatives, right? So you got your dream. It's on this level frequency. And your friends, neighbors, and relatives maybe be like, dude, like, what are you doing going for that dream? Like, you're crazy. And what you want to do is reject all ideas that won't let you get there, right? So when your friends, neighbors, and relatives kind of put you down, try to bring you back down to their reality, essentially what Bob is saying is to reject all ideas that won't help you get there. Okay, now this is very important. We're going to talk about building desire, right? So we understand that there's what you want is out there. And a lot of people, actually, matter of factly, if you ask them what it is that they want, they will give you a vague response. They'll say, I mean, I want a lot of money, right? Well, what's a lot of money? I want a nice house in Florida. Where in Florida do you want the nice house? How many stories do you want it? And what does that house look like to you? So there is actually, a matter of fact, 98% of people will vaguely describe what it is that they want. And we're talking about desire, right? So the desire is in the subconscious mind. And I don't have an image to show you what the subconscious could represent, but let me explain this. So you start out with what you want, and a desire is essentially a feeling. So what you want to do is let yourself get emotionally involved with the idea of what it is that you want. And so what is desire? Let's go back to the first question I asked you. Desire is emotional involvement with your want. Desire is emotional involvement with your want. And the secret to all this is to tie it all up with persistence. So what I mean by that is, if you can hold that emotional feeling of what it is that you want consistently, you can actually that's actually the secret right there. That's how you get whatever it is that you want. It really does come down to the eighth principle in this book, which is persistence in holding that feeling. So the results of what you're getting are an expression of what you desired in the past. And this was also interesting. So these are my last few notes that I took. But if you're worried, that can turn into a desire. So a desire is essentially the main state of mind that you're holding in the subconscious, right? And as a matter of fact, there's a law of polarity that all things have a good part and equally a bad part to them, right? Everything essentially just is. And if you're worried, that too can turn into a desire. And if you're thinking negative thoughts, that too can turn into a desire. And through just the laws of the universe, you are going to attract more bad into your life. So that was some notes I took from Bob on desire. There was some good nuggets that I would love to share with you that I underlined from this book in terms of getting ready for this call. And let me pull this up through the book. So chapter 2, desire, is the starting point of all achievement. And I want to share something that hit me a little bit differently in this book. All right. So Napoleon Hill says that desiring riches with a state of mind that becomes an obsession, and then planning definite ways and means to acquire riches, and backing those plans with persistence, which does not recognize failure, will bring riches. So this stuck out to me a lot, and I want to repeat it. And I want to ask you questions about this quote because I really hope I can convey this idea to you. Desiring riches with a state of mind that becomes an obsession. So understand emphasis on the state of mind. If you desire to get rich so much that it literally becomes an obsession, it will physically change the state of vibration that you're in and the state of mind. And then here's the kicker. Like I was explaining in the last time I went through the YouTube and everything, that it's all about your state of mind. But I didn't add this. And then planning definite ways and means to acquire riches and back in those plans with persistence, which does not recognize failure, will bring riches. So that stuck out to me a lot. Oh, and I want to mention something about money consciousness, right? So essentially, the whole purpose of this book is to develop a money consciousness. And I thought it was interesting when Napoleon Hill said here that money consciousness means that the mind has become so thoroughly saturated with the desire for money that one can see oneself already in possession of it. So I want to repeat that again. Money consciousness means that the mind has become so thoroughly saturated with the desire for money that one can see oneself already in possession of it. That kind of goes back to what I mentioned before, the state of the wish fulfilled. I can imagine myself. Can you imagine yourself in this state where you have all the money that you already want and you're not thinking of it, but you're thinking from that state? And what I mean by that is you're already experiencing the feeling of what it feels like to have $1 million in your possession right now. I think that's what Napoleon Hill is trying to get at. And final quote I want to read is that one must realize that all the people. So this book was accumulated by Napoleon Hill, essentially interviewing over 500 people, 500 of the richest men in the world. And he's explaining that all of them who have accumulated great fortunes first did a certain amount of dreaming, hoping, wishing, desiring, and planning before they acquired money. So that's some pretty big stuff. Let's see what else we got. Okay, yeah, I'll leave it like that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what desire means to you and what you can do with this information. I may not be conveying it in the best sense, but the cool news is I truly do desire a lot of money, and teaching this is helping me kind of learn the principles from a whole new angle. And so I'd love to just have a group discussion about how desire can be, the first step to getting rich, and why did Napoleon Hill essentially make this the first principle in his book. So I'd love to hear that from you. I apologize for starting this call so late. It's 7 p.m. Eastern time right now. I've been, my schedule's been a little bit funky, and I just got off of work recently. So moving forward, I'm like kind of figuring out a time to read this book. But besides the fact, I want to thank you all for listening to my little rant today on desire. We're going to get better every time. And with that being said, I will, until we meet again in time and space, bye everybody.